Hello, everyone. Welcome to this roundtable around unity. We are very happy to have you joining us in this moment and sharing this moment with us, which is right topic unity. And we are creating this unity between us and between the collective, between everyone. And I am joined by Kimberly and Nikki and Isabelle. So,
Hello. Hi, everybody. Yeah, I'm just excited to be here once again for the round table, talk about unity. Lots of things happening around the world right now that's really reminding us of our oneness connection with our brothers and sisters. So yeah, looking forward to this conversation. Great topic,
Nikki,
Max.
and Nikki.
Hi, everybody. I'm here in France, closer to the action, if you could say that. And it's a really good time to remember that we are all connected, not choosing sides, but trying to have compassion for both sides involved, and also just the unity with my brothers and sisters. Sometimes we can get really isolated and feel like we're alone. And that's why we're connecting here together tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have also Isabelle that will be joining us later on. So, so the topic that we have is unity. And as we have already introduced this, with the what is happening worldwide, with the war that has finally come to happen. We were for some days suspending it into, is it going to happen? Are they going to negotiate? Well, this is our reality now. There is this war in Ukraine, which is affecting all of us, all of the collective. It's one of the major events. We are still in the pandemic. Now there is this war, and other things will be probably happening. Certainly, I mean, it's not the end. We're still here. It's continuing, going on. So, right? Things do happen. Now, obviously, this situation is not something that we can really rejoice, because there are people suffering, and I want to start with reminding everyone that people are suffering, not countries. So Ukraine is not suffering as Ukraine. It's the people of Ukraine that are suffering. This is very important, because in this movement of unity, we have to understand that when we use countries is not real. They are, let's say, a sub-collective that we create as an idea of nations coming together, nationalities and countries, right? This kind of thing. It's an idea that we are using as a tool. But countries are not humans. This is human land. And when we use countries in the way we are using them, because we are using them this way, we are making countries beings. And that help the dehumanization, which makes war easier. It's easier to kill. We go and we kill Ukraine. No, it's people. And that is something that is used, is clearly a technique to to just forget that when you kill, you're killing a human being. You're not killing a Ukrainian. It's a human being. They have a face, They have a family, they have feelings, they are humans. And so it's important. It's the people of Ukraine that is suffering, and it's the people of the world. People of Russia are suffering too from this war, not to be forgotten. So here we are. At the same moment that this is happening, however, we can feel that there is a movement of unity. And this movement isn't starting now. It's a movement that has started sometimes now. And what does it mean? It means that we are discovering or rediscovering that we are all united, which is for me a very, very important step. And I channeled some time ago about this, that unity is coming. And yes, it's here. We are not yet fully aware of our unity, but it's here, and it's the awakening is happening. Unity is here, and it's coming, and it's happening, and we are now rediscovering, starting to rediscovering this unity, and this unity is what we are all one. We are all one in a collective or in a whatever it is, and we still are this individuality that we are. So we are not lost in that. We still remain ourselves. And so this opens new opportunities, new change, new ways of expressing human ourselves and humanity. And so even though we are still in very heavy times, with a lot of suffering from many situations, because the pandemic is still happening, so there are still people getting it and still dying, and there are other situations like Kimberley, right, in Australia, and we were talking before, and here in Europe we didn't really hear about what is happening in Australia right now, because everything is focused with the war. But right, things are happening all over the world. And when those things are happening, it's the whole collective that is feeling it. So that is, I think, it's not really a proof, but it's a proof enough of our unity, of our collective. And so, who's coming in?
I'll jump in. Okay, so I just want to share my experience. So in general, when things go on, first of all, I don't usually watch the news. And so I've been quite removed. I think it's been like 10 years I haven't watched the news, okay? However, I've been getting quite a few messages. Like I got a really alarming message from someone who was asking me if I had a plan of evacuation and stuff, and even in the spiritual world, the spiritual leaders that I'll go and listen to on YouTube, or people that I like to hear that remind me, of the things that I know that I forget. So those kind of people are bringing this topic into their videos on YouTube. So basically, it's unavoidable. And now I know about the war. So then I get curious and I look at a video of like buildings being destroyed and the mass exodus out of Ukraine. And then what do I notice? I started noticing the fear I was feeling. right? I started feeling the fear. And so it was quite brief. And I remembered about the light inside of me, this light that is always there. And sometimes I forget about it. It's sort of like the inner knowing that I am always safe and that everything that is happening, even when I don't understand it, or have clarity around it, is for me. And that's a hard concept to wrap your head around, especially when you think about something like war, because we want to right away. I have lots of momentum in saying this is wrong. Um, Putin is wrong, and all these kind of things. And you hear so much stuff. So it's really important for me to go inward and remember the basic things that I believe are universal truths. That everything that happens in my outside reality, first of all, it's an illusion, but we could say that there is really a war happening, and that everyone who's involved in it has chosen this experience, just like all the other historical experiences that we've judged as wrong. We've all come here to participate in this big illusion. So, well, where does that leave us as individuals? For me personally, to stay in my inner light, to shine my inner light, which means first and foremost tuning into my own safety, knowing that I'm okay, that it's all right no matter what happens, I'm okay, and moving back into that light, which is actually love, and having compassion for all involved. And for me, pulling back from looking at YouTube videos and having that broader perspective, the broader perspective, which is watching it all play out, remaining curious, and really being attentive to my own levels of fear, because fear will spiral me down into paralysis, negative thinking, and panic and things like that. No, I do not have a evacuation plan. And I started thinking, oh, I have to get my money out of the bank. That was one of my thoughts, right? Immediate panic. I got to get all that money out of the bank, got to bring it over to the United States. And I actually called up my son and I said, do you think they could melt down the power plants and poison Europe? Because that was one of the things that my friend said to me, So just staying in the present moment, and not getting wrapped up in the details. And I wonder if I wasn't hiding my head in the sand for a really long time because I didn't want the trigger of feeling uncomfortable. But the real work is to be able to witness these events that go on, like COVID, like war, or climate change, whatever it is that's going to trigger me, and actually stay in the safety of knowing it's all okay. That's the work, instead of hiding my head in the sand. And I think that's probably what I did in the past, because I wasn't capable of actually managing my vibration or my alignment. And today, well, it's a minute by minute process, but feeling connected to all the others going through this is a beautiful way to stay in alignment, to know that we're all in our own way experiencing this, even though we are each unique and will experience it differently, and perhaps will be triggered by different things. The empaths will have complete sorrow at what's going on with the Ukrainians or whatever, or the Russians, whatever. I thought about all the animals, of course, because I'm a cat freak and I love dogs. And I thought about all the animals in the zoo, and I started thinking about all the animals, and I started going into fear and thinking, oh, but what about them? And it's so easy to latch on to the notion that something's going on that is wrong. And I think that's tricky, because there is no wrong in the universe. There is no wrong in the universe. There are things that are not our preferences. There are things that we do not understand. But I know that despite what I don't understand, I believe that there's a powerful force promoting change through all of these radical things that are shaking us up. And so I can trust in being able to navigate this a minute at a time, an hour at a time, a day at a time. Thank you.
That's beautifully said, Nikki. And what you said about the news, and you know, how it's easy to avoid the news because you don't want to get triggered, but exactly that point. We can't run away from our fears. We need to face them. And I'm not saying you have to, you know, go out of your way to, you know, delve into it, but obviously what's going on, you can't really avoid it, right? Especially if you're in Europe, you're Max in Europe. So I would understand it's probably quite prevalent where you are, whereas opposed to Australia, it's quite the opposite. As Max alluded to, we are actually, like the last couple of weeks, we haven't actually had much of the coverage of what's going on of Ukraine war, because we've had these major deadly floods that's affecting all the east coast of Australia. It's also affected where I'm living now a little bit. So I guess all our media is kind of focused on that, right? And because we're in Australia, we're like on the other side of the world to Ukraine, even though there has been bits and pieces, it hasn't been complete coverage, which probably is in Europe and other parts of the world. Don't know about America, maybe it's the same over there as well. But for sure, what you're saying is that, you know, how there is no wrong in the universe. It's definitely a part of a collective shift. And it's, you know, when we say that, of course, it's not about ignoring those who suffer, because at the end of the day, and what Max was saying is, you know, to be compassionate with those people, because at the end of the day, those people are us, they're a reflection of us. So I know, again, what you said, Nikki, as well, which is a really good point, but standing in our light. But when we stand in our light and, you know, go within and allow us to be at a high vibration, manage our fear. So yes, the empaths for sure are going to be feeling it right now, right? But also those who are triggered by watching news and what's going on. It's about, if you're faced with it, and you're triggered by fear, by negative emotion, that's for you to work on and address, right? But at the same time, it's not to ignore what's going on, putting our face in the sand, because it is easier to do that. But okay, what's going on now is a oneness shift, you know, and I'm seeing that especially in my neck of the woods in Australia, because I know, even though there's not much coverage, I know there'll be other events that's happening right now around the world. We're just not getting coverage of it. I know big things are happening in Australia, obviously Ukraine and Russia. So I know there's a big collective shift right now, and it's a movement to oneness remembrance in Australia. And I'm seeing actually some images of Russia, of people in Ukraine really coming together. There was this really nice story of this guy from Germany. He got his piano, I think he's his piano man or something. He took his piano in a car, went to Ukraine, and is playing for the people to give them hope. And all these beautiful stories are emerging, right? Of course, you've got what it is in relation to war and all that conflict and that ugliness, but it can be hard to see the higher perspective. And sometimes it's easy just to be like, okay, it's happening for their highest good and ignore it. But understand, for us, especially those of you watching this, right? You are here because you're taking the inner journey. You are here because you are wanting to remember who you are as source, as one. So at the same time, as you know, as above, so below, as within, so without. So it's about us being in alignment, yes, because everything is a reflection of us, but at the same time, everything outside of us is also a reflection of us, right? So when someone is in suffering, or people are in suffering, they are a reflection of us. So we are one. So, you know, and you might ask, how can we assist them? Because there's a lot of people out there who are asking, how can we help those in need, you know, especially if it's not, you know, directly related to where we live or to our reality. But if you can first understand that we are one. So when you see images of people, you know, going through this, you know, suffering, right, in Ukraine and Russia, and of course other parts of the world, here in Australia also, and, you know, like I said, there's probably other events that's happening as well that we just don't know about. If you can first recognize that they are a reflection of us, and then, you know, you can go into your heart center. And we have talked on previous episodes of the Roundtable about the energy of love, you know, prayer and intention. You know, it does affect the collective. So, you know, those of you who see that suffering, if you can be in alignment, that's actually affecting the whole collective consciousness. So when you raise your frequency, that affects those indirectly, I guess you can say. by those. But then if you can be in alignment, what happens as well is that you open the channel, the clarity to receive those, action steps. So you might be inspired to directly help those in need, right? And I'm seeing another beautiful story about how people all over the world are helping those in Ukraine, because through like Airbnb, you can like rent out, Airbnb, you can kind of rent out a property. Of course, you're not going to go there, but that money's directly going to go to those individuals. So there's lots of beautiful ways you can help, like in a more direct way as well. But what I'm seeing, especially what's happening in Australia, because it's quite prevalent now, is that I'm seeing and feeling the beauty, even though there's devastation, even though there's been like deaths from these floods that's happening. The community, it's like the community spirit. It's everyone's coming together. There's a bit of contrast with political stuff and people and governments not helping out and all the rest. But one of the prevalent stories is coming out, and that is also true for Ukraine. We just may not see that because of the media coverage, is all the beautiful actions and the community coming together, the people coming together. And, people in Australia, communities were going out of the way, risking their own lives to rescue and to help those in need, people trapped on rooftops and things like that. And it's just helping out your brothers and sisters in your own neighborhood. But of course, we can do this also on a greater scale. And that it's just, so even though you might see the ugliness, what's happening with the war and other things, understand there's also that beauty there. So you can see the theme here if you really want to look at it, right? You can see the theme. There's communities coming together, the world's coming together, the collective consciousness, people all around the world are pouring their love, to those people affected in Ukraine and Russia, because yes, let's not forget, this is not a war for Russia. Okay. It's just a particular person up top, right? So the people in Russia are still suffering as well. They're being affected by all the sanctions. So let's not forget about them and everyone else that's, extended families and, everyone else that's involved. But it's definitely a collective movement. And, what Nikki, you said for historic events that's happened in the past is that, yes, there's been a reason for this. Again, it goes back to eons and collective shifts. And when Nikki said there is, people chose it, you might ask yourself, why would you choose suffering? Why would you choose to go to this? But understand, we don't choose these things from a human perspective, from this reality. You might know of the term, soul contracts or pre-birth intentions. So these are things, certain themes and events we wanted to explore in our life prior to being born here on the physical plane. We may not be able to fully understand that concept. Why would you choose devastation? Why would you choose such suffering? We cannot understand unless we're directly involved, unless we're one of those people, even then they're not going to maybe have the awareness of that. But from past events, what's happened, like previous wars, world wars, what's happened? The Declaration of Human Rights was created. That only happened because of what happened in the past. So that's just an example of how these catalyzing events, what comes out of that is a unity movement. We may not be able to see it manifested completely at this stage, but it's happening. It's now in our face. We can't avoid it, that we are connected to our brothers and sisters. Even like in Australia, for instance, in relation to what's going on, the war, we're on the other side of the world to Europe, yet we are connected, even in a physical way. What's happening with all the sanctions and everything with the oil, and that's going to obviously affect us in that way. And of course, that's nothing to do with suffering on our end, and that's just a little example. But for people who are not aware of the human connection, right? That just shows you how we're all connected, even though it's on a superficial level. We are of the one energy. We are of the source energy. So anything that you see in your outer reality, understand that's a reflection of a shared consciousness. So it's not about putting our heads in the sand. It's about whatever we're confronted with, to look at that. If it triggers fear in us, to look at that with compassion to ourselves and extend that compassion to all others, because all others are us. And it's a very hard, it can be very challenging, especially when we see people that are doing wrong, or a particular person in this instance. But understand that we are one. So this is, you know, we're here on a mastery level, guys, a mastery level. So it's only human nature to fall back into fear and with contrast with what's going on here. So it's okay, but, you know, we have the power to help both on a physical level, if you're inspired to, or just in an energetic way, you know, through raising our frequency, by remaining in alignment within ourselves, right? By bringing our focus to unconditional love, unconditional acceptance, by going in within the heart. And if you can be in acceptance of what's happening and try and see a higher perspective, what's going to happen, you're going to receive the messages for other steps that you can take to create further change. All right. So it all starts with the inner journey.
Thank you, Kimberly. I think that one thing that we have to also realize is that this situation that we have, like the war, that we are that bring change, evolution, and all of that. One thing that I realized is that we use them for this change. However, the suffering, it's not a necessity. It's our belief system that brings us to use it in this way. We could go, right? So sometimes say, oh, if I hadn't suffered in my childhood, if I didn't have my parents treating me that way, or oh, my family, this and that, I won't be where I am, right? You won't have the history that you have, yes, but won't you be where you are? Not sure of that, because there are many ways to go there. There isn't just one way, right? So all that is happening right now, we are using it, yes, for the change, to bring all of that. However, it's not a necessity, because if we go, if we just accept it as, oh yeah, that I need that in order to evolve, then we are justifying suffering. We are justifying all of that. And as I was going through my my crisis to the war, and I was trying to say, oh yeah, but you see, if the Russians are doing this, it's because the Americans have emboldened them, they have blah 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 blah. And then they came in and they said, the team came in and said, well, you're justifying war. You are giving a justification for war. War is not justifiable. You cannot justify it. It's just a shit thing that you do, but don't justify it. It's war. That's all it is. It's people dying. That's all it is. Guns. Oh, I have guns in my house because I have to defend myself. These are no, guns are done for killing. End of story. Then yes, you do whatever you want with that, but that's the thing that they are done for killing. Then justify whatever you want. They're done for killing, right? That is the thing. So all of these things that come, and not to forget that when we have these major situations, worldwide events, they're still not in our nows. They're happening. We're attracting them as a knowing for ourselves, as a, it's happening. If I were to go to Ukraine, there's the war, I will be in the middle of the war, yes. But that's not this now, it's another now. in this now, the war is not here. So this is to say that in our nows, in our reality, we are experiencing ourselves, and that has to remain like that. Like Nikki was saying, right? Go inside, stay with yourself, because that's where you are. That's your home. That's you. It's your body. It's your reality. It's your here and now. That doesn't discount what is happening, doesn't negate what is happening, but what is happening for you right now is not your now. You don't have the war right here, unless you are in Ukraine or, yeah, in Ukraine. So this is, I think, something that is important to understand. You are in your reality. You are right here, right now. That's yours. That's what you have. And the fear, yeah, right. Like Nikki was saying, fear, that gives me fear. That's absolutely normal. We are a lot of fear. We live it. It happens. A war. I mean, what war awakens fear, obviously, right? Do you imagine a bomb just outside of your window, next to you? Well, I don't want to imagine it and even experience it, but that's what happens in the war. So it's very scary. It's terrifying. So yeah, we experience fear. However, fear still remains something that is not here and now. Because if it was here and now, you wouldn't be fearful of it. You will be experiencing it, which is something else, different. And not the fear. The fear, you can manage it because it's the fear of something that you are connected with, but it's not happening. Yeah, and so I love what you said. There are many things that are happening, right, Kimberly, that are just showing us that the community is there, that we are now reacting in a completely different way, and we are uniting so much through these situations. And you can see it in the reaction of the international community with the war, but not just that war, many other things, right? Collective funds or clothes or people just having private or community experiences where they want to help and they do it. We are showing that. And also in the reaction, remember when the Americans went against Iraq? We didn't have this reaction. We didn't have this action so wide, so strong, of condemnation, of rejection, wasn't there, wasn't happening. Now it's happening, and we can see it. You see, these are the signs of the change, the signs of we are uniting, and we are discovering it, and we are doing it without thinking about, oh, I want to unite myself with. No, we are just doing it, and this is there, and you can see it because it's happening. And yeah. Anyone else?
I just want to jump in with what you said, Max, just something is, with the fear in relations to war, understand that, there's obviously rational fear and irrational fear. So when we say have a look at the fear, that's, usually when you've got irrational fear, right? So it relates to our limiting beliefs, but rational fear is different. So when there is actually fear of your own safety, that's rational fear. So understand that aspect of fear. And I know for you guys in Europe, you're probably more towards the rational fear, because I guess, you know, something could happen with the nuclear side of things and it can be directly affected. So I understand there is that rational fear coming in. So that's only human nature. It's like that flight or fight response. So I understand to have fear in regards to your own safety, that's normal. If you didn't have fear, then you're really a superhuman, because when it comes to your own life, your own safety, it's only human nature to have a bit of fear, that flight or fight response, right? We're wired for that. We're wired for that because, of course, if we didn't have that flight or fight response, you know, within our evolution, we would just go, you know, do and just walk off a cliff. We're like, okay, that's fine. Let's go, you know. So it's keeping us alive in this physical reality. So we need that kind of mechanism, the flight or fight response. But like what you said, Max, is just a good point. Even though it's normal to experience this fear, there is, I mean, and I'm not saying the people in Ukraine are probably there, or even in Russia, because understand that they're experiencing rational fear. Their own safety is a risk. So I'm not saying this is for them, but it could be for all of us at least. You know, that it's just part of human evolution, just to remind us that, you know, we don't have to suffer. I mean, yes, the people that's directly affected, they may be obviously going through suffering because their own life is in danger. From their perspective, you know, it's kind of in reality, this third dimension of reality, even though we know the higher truths and that, you know, even irrational fear is sometimes, if you go even to the higher perspective again, like, you know, the whole concept of irrational fears and rational fears become dissolved, right? We know that. But then if we're living in physical reality, yes, we're still going to be triggered by rational fear. So understand that's okay if you have this fear. You're not doing something wrong. It doesn't mean you're not advanced because you have fear around this. It's a normal part of the human mechanism. So just know that. But then everyone else that we're watching this, looking at the situation, what's happening in our everyday life, yes, we don't have to suffer. But when it comes to rational fear, that can be extra challenging. And yes, we do have the capacity to actually go through such situations and not go through suffering. You know, but people who can do that, of course, would be at a very high vibration. To see people, you know, dying around them and still be in acceptance of what's going on, like that's next level. So but we do have the capacity to even though we have fear, but not to suffer, right? Yeah, that's just something I just wanted to put in there, that there is a difference between rational and irrational fear.
Love that. I was thinking the same thing, and I was thinking about irrational fear, because I think we could break it down a little bit more, which is especially for us in Europe, and, you know, thinking about this situation. First of all, let me just preface by saying I grew up with a mother who always saw the worst possible scenario, right? So she was always in the catastrophic outcomes, and I adopted that belief from her. So it's been a lot of you know, undoing what was done to me, so to speak, or what I adopted. But when we talk about irrational fear and rational fear, today, right now, this minute, no nuclear plant has been melted down, and Europe is not poisoned, right? And I think that's what key in times like this. Remember when COVID came, and I was washing all my, like, we were taking off our shoes and washing our vegetables and our package. Okay, so like what I'm saying is, in the now, that stuff hasn't happened. These are only possible timelines. So look at what you consider rational fears. It might be something you could see as a possible outcome, but there's absolutely no guarantee any of these things will happen. Maybe it could be dissolved. The whole war could be over tomorrow for all we know. Who knows? So is it rational or irrational? In this now, it would be rational to imagine all the nuclear power plants are going to explode and Europe's going to be poisoned, or that Putin is going to continue to invade Europe. So stay in the moment. And I was thinking, I had the image while Max was sharing of when you're, it's really nice when you talk about maintaining your vibration when it's all in theory, right? Then you get on an airplane and there's plane trouble. The engine starts going on fire or something. The oxygen masks come down. Now we are no longer in theory, right? So forget all that because you're going to go into real fear. But what I was thinking of in terms of light workers and all these people that are connected, that are on this inward journey and that are on the ascension, that know about this awakening, and it's sort of like, it's our, no, I wouldn't say duty, but it's our honor. We are here on the leading edge of, consciousness. So we can put the oxygen mask on so that we can help all the others. We can, you know, maintain our vibration to the best of our ability, minute by minute, so that we can spread more love and light, And the only way that I know how to do that is to stay in the moment and not to move out into these timelines, which are in the future and that are going to fill me with fear, because I will spiral out and I won't be of help to myself or anyone else. And, I'm talking about this in theory, but the truth is, step by step, baby steps, we can move into joy no matter what's going on in our external reality, whether it be on a personal level, on a collective level. And I think it's really, these things like COVID and now this war are things that have really put a lot of people into fear. And it's because, for such a long time, we all were walking around in so much fear and we had no idea. Now we know it's completely unmanageable to hold on to all this fear. It's time to release it. So, how can I release a little bit so that I feel better, so that I can move in to the connection with myself and then with everybody else that's around me? And that, I think that's a, it's funny because there are a lot of conspiracy theories out there, like, crazy things I've heard. I mean, it's not crazy. That's not a qualifier I want to use. Things that aren't really in my they're not in
Delusional?
my scenarios. They're in somebody's scenarios. But I've heard things like, like they're replicas and aliens are Putin is like a puppet, like, aliens that are trying to take over the planet and crazy and things like that. And if you're looking for conspiracy theories, or if you're looking for some story that's going to confirm that you're afraid for a real reason, you will always find one. Just like when you take it on a personal level and you feel you've had some sort of injustice, you will always find a friend that will agree with you. If you want someone to side with you in your victimization, you will always find somebody. So I think it's important to get out of all of the stories and tune into your own um, inner knowing, your own sense of safety and well being, no matter what is happening around you, so that you can be of service to yourself and to others. And one other thing that I wanted to say is, Max, when you started off, you were talking about justifying, right? The suffering. And I was thinking, what's the purpose of suffering anyway? Well, one thing I know on a personal level is when I suffer, I birth desires for something different, right? And to move from the birth of that desire into actually having that desire. If I'm having financial trouble, I birth desires, I birth rockets of desire for more abundance. Well, if I can get out of the fear, I can actually take a first step towards moving into more financial abundance. And that first step actually is just seeing myself as someone who, I wouldn't say affluent, but something more reachable, someone who can pay her bills, or someone who can have a massage every once in a while, someone who's feeling freer in her financial vision. So it all starts, the power is within you. We begin with us. It all begins with us. It always has, us, that inner self that's connected to our eternal self. Yeah, that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Well, it's I was thinking, I had the thought of saying, oh, probably the conspiracy community, it's just on it, and they are justifying Putin, and they are putting together all these explanations and dissociations, because it's dissociation from reality, right? It's externalizing, trying to, and it's fearful. The conspiracy is general. These kinds of conspiracies are just putting even more fear over fear, because generally they're saying, yeah, the draconians or this, they're taking over, and the shadow government that are just right doing this stuff. And I said, well, yeah, probably they are just working on that right now. And I mean, I've seen some of them acting, and what they say, and yeah, and I remember when I was watching that kind of thing, it was just fear. And a delusion from reality, and you could see it when in the last American election, in action, right? The delusion of pretending that the election was not right? They tempered with that, and when we know that that is not correct. But that is the point of this delusion, is that they're trying to create a alternative reality, right? Or to be more, it's that reality may exist, probably it exists, but it's not this. So they are trying to bring that reality in this reality, but it doesn't work like that. You cannot just say, oh, I prefer that. Let me take that. And right? No, it doesn't work like that. And so it becomes delusion, because if we say every reality is real, everything is real, yeah, all right, but it has to be right, correct with what I'm experiencing. If I'm experiencing this, and I'm trying to say, oh, it's not this, actually it's something else, but then that becomes delusion, even if that something else is real, but it's another reality. So those things are certainly, they're certainly using that, but we know it's disinformation, it's fear, it's trying to get an alternative way of seeing things and manipulating people into following these kind of things, because it's easier to believe that we are so many people are just out there not knowing what they are, where they are, why they are. They're looking for an answer. They can't find those answers. They are suffering. No one is helping, right? They are only in this. And so when comes along this kind of explanation that gives you a way of saying, oh, it's their fault, it's because the government, the shadow government, it's because of the aliens, it's because of all those people that are doing that. So yeah, now I understand why I'm in this shitty situation, right? And so yeah, it's the easier way not to go inside, but to go outside, which is what they do. It's completely outside of the being. You're not anymore aligned with yourself. You are completely out there, and there is no out there. So you're right. It's the illusion, but that's what they do. They are not in their body. They're trying to leave, but they can't leave. So it's just that, and we can only just keep a lot of empathy, love for these people, because they are suffering. That's self-imposed suffering, right? Because yeah, well all suffering somehow is self-imposed, but it's this creating this kind of situations, and all of this to say that is also where Putin is. He is delusional. He is not stupid because he's very clever, and I mean, right? I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that he knows what he's doing, contrary to some other people. He knows what he's doing. I'm not saying he's doing right, because we could talk about that. But you can see that at the same moment, all of this that is happening comes from delusions, from disconnection from reality. And you can see that this being, because we are talking about unity, so you could say, yeah, unity, but how is it possible in unity to have such a being? Well, these beings do exist, and one of the base of this is abuse of power. This being is abusing power, and probably even going forward, much forward, too far away from what ought to be allowed. But that's the abuse, right? Abuse of power is when people are overstepping the power that they are receiving from other beings, meaning Putin is president, or it's the head of Russia. So you have all, allegedly, or right in the idea, all the Russians that are giving some power to their government, and he is the head of the government, he receives that power. Then what he does with that power? Well, it's abuse of power automatically, because it ought to be representing. So the question is war representing what the Russian people want? No. So there's your abuse. And so these beings are are disconnected, and they are not caring about anything. They have only their delusion, and they think that their action is going to reestablish something, to make things better. Can war make things better? No. No. And there is no justification for it. War is never making things better. But in this idea of this being, yeah, that's what they are perceiving right now, right? I'm making it better for, I don't know, for themselves, probably. That's the idea, right? But there you have the abuse, and once you are in that, this kind of being, they are simply disconnected. I went into a meeting. I met Donald Trump in a different sphere. It was a dream, but it was not a dream. So I met Donald Trump, and when I met Donald Trump, I met someone that was so disconnected that it was impossible to communicate with this being, to make this being see that there is a war with, right? There is a reality. There are many other beings, and yeah, you have to consider that. And I was facing someone that doesn't allow that to exist anymore. They're completely disconnected from humanity. With Donald Trump, the thing is that on top of that, he's an idiot. So that gave what we witnessed with Putin. Putin is not an idiot. So you see that the actions and the way he's acting, all of that, you can see that he had a plan, right? So, but he remains disconnected from humanity, right? So these things happen, and happened, yeah, probably and this being exists, right? We had already examples of these beings in our history, and still so, but it doesn't stop humanity. It doesn't stop our evolution. Yeah. Sorry, I was carried away, I think, a little bit here.
No, Max, but that's a good point, actually, what we were saying. And it was so funny, Nikki just did a little chat message that we're going to be censored. Yeah, since this session is probably, you know, controversial, let's keep going. No, but what I was going to say is that, like, since we're talking about, I know we're kind of going a little bit like the conspiracy theory thing. I haven't really been seeing it, but I would understand if there's around, because the pandemic and everything, it was full bloom, right? But just on that, since we're getting all controversial, also conspiracy theories, people who align to that, you know, it can be a common sign of awakening, because, you know, I know even for me, like many years ago, I went to my own little, you know, going down the rabbit hole. And let me just say, and I went down there, you know, but if you don't work on the inner fears, what happens when you start to awaken to beyond the veil of physical reality, you then latch on to other fear narratives. And that's what you're seeing with people, or if you're yourself going through this, it's okay. It's usually just a stage, right? Usually it's not a permanent stage. It's part of the awakening stage for many. It's like you're basically still attaching to fear, but just on another timeline, another narrative. You're still attaching to victim mentality. Perhaps instead of Putin, now you're seeing that the powers that be, or what did you say, Nikki? And what the aliens are influencing him or something. I haven't
that there's like replicants, or that Putin is a puppeteer for draconian forces that are
right. Okay, so yeah, I haven't heard of that, but I can understand if that's out there, because I know this kind of story with, is it reptilians, I think? Yeah. All this kind of fear-based story, but understand you can take out Putin. It doesn't matter. You can put like an alien there, or the elite, or the 1%. It doesn't matter. It's the same vibration, victimization. It is still fear. If you want to get into stories about who's behind it in third dimensional reality, right? Even then, this is a limited perspective, but you guys might have known of QAnon. There's when it came to full bloom through the pandemic, there's a lot of researchers into this and getting behind who's behind the QAnon, and basically was created to destabilize communities and countries. And from my memory, some of the players are actually from that part of Europe. So it only makes sense that now there's kind of stories coming out about the war, you know, because if it's, I'm not saying it's QAnon behind it, because it's like I said, it's a common part of the awakening. We latch onto conspiracy theories, but I know, like, this is like reality, this is science, this has been examined. So the QAnon movement was created to deliberately destabilize, to put people in fear, right? So I know a lot of people actually think they're kind of heroes, and understand if you are aligned to them, there's no judgment. I'm not saying that you're an idiot, or, you know, understand that this can be a common symptom, or would say a symptom, but an effect of awakening. All it is, it's just, you know, that's why we always talk about, you know, the inner shadow work, the soul work, because if we don't do that, when we start to awaken to, you know, what's going on in our reality beyond physical reality, if we don't look at our own inner fears, we just latch onto other fear stories, conspiracy theories, and all the rest. So yes, I know over time there has been some conspiracy theories that turned out to be correct, but it doesn't actually matter if it's real or not real, because at the end of the day, there's nothing real in physical reality. It's up to you whether you want to latch onto fear or acceptance. Do you want to be empowered in your reality? Do you want to remember who you are as source, that you're empowered being that you are? Or do you want to remain in victim mentality and fear and duality? The choice is yours. And I'm just saying here, like, to people that's going through this, because my heart goes out to you. I was one of these people. I understand that, you know, you might have all the evidence in your reality that you are being controlled. right? I understand this. And because this is just a narrative in physical reality, but understand in higher truth, no one is controlling us, whether it is the government, whether it is Putin, whether it is the elite, whether it is the reptilian or whatever, you know, whatever you like to put the label on, it doesn't matter. Like this, you can get caught up in the narrative and the stories. At the end of the day, go beyond that, guys. Go beyond that. You have the power to even go beyond that. What's truth? The truth is oneness. So when you attach yourself to a story that creates division, like they're controlling us or the elite's controlling us, what you're doing, you're creating more duality, more separation from who you are, from the remembrance that you are God, that you are source. Do you want to see the manifested new earth, as we like to call it? Do you want to experience oneness, the embodiment of your highest potential of divine self? Well, you have to start seeing. I'm going to say you don't have to do it. The choice is yours. There's no wrong or right. You absolutely can explore fear and victim mentality. There's no wrong or right, but wouldn't you prefer to experience joy? Wouldn't you prefer to be empowered? To be empowered is to see the truth that we are all one. So basically, you know, the division, like in conspiracy, I know we're talking a little bit off topic, but kind of not, because it relates to what's going on in the narrative, right? You know, if you want more unity in the world, global peace, global harmony, we'll look at your own beliefs in regards to unity and duality and how you're seeing other people and the world. It starts from within. We are all connected to the collective consciousness. So you have a choice. You have the ability to assist the collective consciousness come together. Remember, they're one state. But it's about bringing your beliefs to the forefront and looking at that. What am I seeing that's creating division? Do I see division in my reality? Do I see people controlling other people? Do I see, you know, the darkness and the light fighting together? Or do you see that it's all two sides of the same coin? Because it is, right? It's the story of duality, the story of polarity. It's polarity is a system of the universe to allow ourselves to experience life outside of the source point, basically the origin, right? If you want to have a life outside, you know, if you want to have an individual life, a perception of an individual life outside source consciousness, that pure energy, then we expand through polarity. But again, you don't have to suffer through it. And we have a choice in this reality to bring our attention to what we're doing in creating division in our reality. And I understand if you are really attached to division and victim mentality in your reality, that's still okay. There's no wrong in that. We're not saying that you're wrong in having certain beliefs, right? But understand this is part of your journey, but you also have a choice to choose love, to choose acceptance. I know many years ago, when I started to go through one of my waves of awakening, I went through that rabbit hole of conspiracy theories. And you know how I felt? Miserable. I felt so negative. And I got to a point, and that's when I started to learn about law of attraction. And I was like, you know what? Like, I started to see the higher perspectives. And I, luckily, in that stage of my awakening, I chose love and acceptance. And since then, I'm just, you know, filled with so much love for my brothers and sisters, unconditional love, because I know that they were all us. Even those that we see are perpetrators, they are also us. And you can get to a point where even though you might not agree with certain people's behaviors, you can still be in acceptance of it, right? When you're in acceptance of it, you're seeing the perspective from the eyes of source, right? It's a vibration of love. It's okay if you don't agree with behaviors, that's okay, but you can be in acceptance of it. That's when you start to raise your frequency, you start to see the higher perspective. We all have that ability, all right? So if you're watching this and you want to find ways for you to raise your frequency, to raise your awareness, to create more unity on earth, look at the division that you're creating in your own life. Because you know what? We're human. We all do it. And it's only human nature to judge, right? It's part of the human condition. We're all perpetual students here, right? We're all on a journey of going into fear, maybe creating judgment with ourselves or others, and then returning back to that higher truth that we are one. So understand it is okay if you're on this journey of exploring victim mentality. in relations to like conspiracy theories. Okay, like I know, like I said, again, with the rational fear, if you're affected directly by this war, understand that it's only normal to have this fear, because it's rational, especially when your life is in danger, when it's like, you know, when we have this, when there's lots of evidence that could be, you know, true. Of course, if you've got bombs falling around you, that's definitely rational fear, guys. So it's okay to have the fear, understand this. But for those of us not directly affected, we're looking in, and we may be placing judgment for the people involved, for people who are seeing things in different perspectives. Understand, wherever you are at, it's perfect. There's no wrong. There is no right. All right. And if you are in fear, my heart goes out to you. If you are suffering, my heart goes out to you, because I recognize you are me. Right. If you see someone suffering in fear, and you know, it's like if you turn your back on them, let's just say someone's in fear in front of you, and then you go, okay, well, nothing to do with me. You're actually doing this to part of you. So when you want to remember more of who you are, it's about integrating all aspects of us, and a greater extension of that. And we talk about inner shadow work, right? Which is our limiting beliefs. But a greater extension of that is uniting all aspects of us in relations to the reflection of all others outside of us, like our human brothers and sisters. And yes, we're much more than human. Yes, we know that, but we're having a human experience. So it's about first recognizing our, you know, I like to say, just with your perspective, try to see the connection that all of us have, right? That we're all the one energy. So even if you don't know how to help, even if you find yourself in this judgment, it is okay, but return yourself back to just that higher truth that we are one. Go within the heart. Your heart does not lie, guys. You know, all this stuff we're seeing, you know, with the war with Putin, it's very ego-based. We know it's from the head, trying to control, it's fear-based, trying to recreate the old, which is never going to happen. So for us to have the open clarity of the best ways to be in alignment for ourselves and for others is return to the heart. And it's, like I said, we're perpetual students here. And yeah, I mean, it's easy to, you know, we had a little giggle before about Trump and that, but, you know, understand, you know, we're not, you know, life is not to be taken too seriously, guys. But yes, we do understand that all of us are us. We're all one. So, you know, if you're triggered by our comments, well, I'm sorry. Maybe look at that fear. but you know, we're not here to, you know, to put anyone down here or judge anyone. But we're just saying that, you know, there is a higher perspective, that we are all one. And that's just my little 2 cents on conspiracy theories. I know we kind of went on tangent, but if you're saying that it's coming out now in the narrative in relations to the war, again, it's just another narrative of fear victim mentality, whether it's Putin, whether it's the elites or whatever you like to do. It's the same thing. It's the same energy, same vibration. We have a choice, and we can choose love and acceptance.
So you were saying, let's take the higher perspective, or aligning ourselves with our heart. So let's do that. And in that perspective, let's take a moment to just ask ourselves one thing. We are creative beings, so we are involved in our reality, right? We create our reality, we are involved in it. With that perspective in mind, my question is, would you, and now this is less human question, it's a question, right, higher perspective, but in that higher perspective, my question is, would you create a reality where your drinking water is poisoned by the government? Will you create a reality where the draconians are taking over the world? Will you create those kind of reality for yourself to live in? No, you won't, because they don't make sense. You are here to have an experience. You are here for that, for yourself. You're not here for the world. You're here for yourself first, and then for the collective, right? Because we are all one. So we are all here for ourselves and for all of us. But in that perspective, yeah, we are here for ourselves. So does it make sense to poison the water, to have these waves that are hypnotizing everyone to do what the government wants? No. Why? Because there is no government. Because you are creating your water. Because you are a creating being for yourself first, right? So let's take a little bit of that perspective to empower ourselves in our moment, and so that we can release those things, let go of all of those fears, conspiracy of the bad guy that is there to get you. No, there is you and there is you.
Hey, you know what? I don't have much to add, but first of all, oh my gosh, Kimberly, that was just, it was all encompassing and I absolutely loved it. And it was perfect. It was so perfect. And I was thinking about the QAnon thing because I know two people in my community, two women that I've known for like 15 years, and both of them have attached themselves to the whole conspiracy theory and QAnon. And you know, it's you talked about empowering ourselves by moving into the heart, and it's really the opposite. It's disempowering ourselves because it's an old scenario that we all know. It's called the us and them scenario. So I can be okay when my external conditions change, right? And until my external conditions change, I can't be okay, because these women are talking about the awakening. They're talking about the awakening that's coming. They say as soon as, you know, this all gets regulated and settled, then the awakening's going to come. And I was like, okay. You know, and I mean it like moved into paranoia and stuff, and quite frankly, it was after 3 or 4 hours of walking in the forest listening to this kind of stuff, I was like, okay, I have my preferences, you know. But the beautiful thing about the law of attraction, the beautiful thing about awakening and realizing that we are the creators of our reality through through our vibration, when we align with that essence of love, which is our true nature. Why do we do all that? Because we came here to feel joy, because we came here to have freedom. And when we're imprisoned by these systems of belief, then, like you said, Kimberly, we're in a state of suffering. So we always get to choose, and we always have the power of choice. And there's nothing wrong with the choice of fighting against. There's nothing wrong with choosing to step into joy either. You always have the choice. And if anybody is like me, we move in and out of both in a way, because we have the navigating of reality in these times. It's quite challenging, and maybe Jesus and the monks are able to stay up in those high vibrations all the time, but myself, I go into the pity pot and then I move back into joy and appreciation, and then I experience all those emotions. But I always get to choose to come back to love, because I have a strong desire for freedom. I'm a huge freedom seeker. And so, you know, you always get to choose, but this has been a very enlightening conversation. So thank you, both of you. I've loved it.
Thank you. And yeah, right. We are, I think all of this is to promote, well, the healing of the self, and to promote the realization of the one, because there is one of us here. We are all one, having our own experience, because the one doesn't negate us, I, here and now. And that's one of the things that right, spectacular or amazing about us is that our individuality, it's just exploding in the all, right? We are this wonderful individuality in the all, and we exist, right? That we are, and this is a reality because law one, I exist, and this is a truth. I know I exist, and each one of you, right? We all know that. So I think that we have we can unless you want to add anything, we're going to come to a close. Then there is Isabelle that will share her views on this topic that will be added. So thank you to all of you for joining me, and I'm very happy to share this moment with you. And so who's next? The big question. I think it's Isabelle, actually.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isabelle, if you're watching. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you.
A pleasure.
Thank you so much for choosing such a great topic. Thank you.
Yes,
Kim.
thanks, Max.
Thank you.
Magic.
And we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, and now I'm here with Isabelle the day after. She's joining us and bringing her contribution to our topic, unity. Hi, Isabelle. Very happy to have you with us as well.
Thank you, Max. So I couldn't make the meeting with Nikki and Max and Kimberly, but Max is like, oh, don't worry, you know, we can add you in later. So I listened to the conversation and it was wonderful. I think Kimberly and Nikki really touched upon how it's an inside job, how to look at fear, to also see the beauty of the war. Max, you really brought home that there is no right and wrong. There is no sides. It's equal participants in the pain and suffering and all of that. So you all beautifully touched upon it. So I will let you know what the team talked to me around this war. So when I just want to let you know, if I didn't get an energetic download for 5 hours, I probably wouldn't be as calm as I am around this war, because I really felt like the sky was falling and the world was ending. And I did go into intense fear, but the spirit team had me actually study war about 2 to 3 years ago for about 6 months. And I had to watch documentaries around World War I, Civil Wars, all sorts of things. And then even when I went into my Lionsgate and I did an Earth review and a life review, we also touched upon the conflict of war. So I just want to let you guys know, energetically, this is not just an Earth thing. This is not just an Earth human paradigm. I would say that this is a very old energy, us versus them, and it is part of the 3D consciousness of us versus them in separation. And so war is a natural outcome, I would say, right? Because it's in that polarity in conflict. And so the subject is unity, right? So once you understand, and also personally yesterday, I cried like 5 times. I really felt the soul collective and the pain and the suffering. And I, you know, it was a lot. I just kept on crying, and I allowed it to move through me. I checked in to see if it was about me, if it was for me. I asked a lot of questions around it. I allowed it to be. I didn't pass judgment on it, and I just remained sad. And it's okay, because it is intense, and we're part of the collective. We are the collective, but we're also light workers anchoring in that light of peace. So also the team worked with me on peace within me. Where are there conflicts within my life? Where are there judgments in my life? Where can I put forgiveness? How can I bring in forgiveness in the pain and suffering in my own energetic field? Because once I transmute my own conflict and I bring in forgiveness, it literally anchors a frequency into the collective. So light workers out there, really go within and look at your own frequency, because when you bring in the frequency of peace and forgiveness within your energetic field, it does have an impact. All right, so that is around the war and what was going on with me. And I will tell you the message that the team would like everyone to know about. This war is necessary for our evolution. This war is necessary to bring the contrast into the light. And I think we touched upon that. You guys really touched upon that, Max and Kimberly and Nikki. Okay. There is no wrong. You can decide to take a side, but in actuality, it is the same. It's just a mirror for each other. No one's better, no one's worse. The unity, this war is a catalyst to many entities or humans awakening, because everyone's ascension is unique. So Max, when you talked about like the war is not in your physical reality where you are residing, that is true, because everyone, even though we share a collective experience, everyone is on a unique journey. Okay. So one of the weird things around the construct of the multiverse is, let's say a roof is collapsing and you are standing right next to that person. And when the roof falls, that person right next to you perishes, but you do not. You shared an experience, but you have a very different outcome. Because I'm just gently reminding everyone, your soul, your inner being, is the one that has the full control. And so if it's for your highest good for the roof to collapse, well, then the roof collapse. Sorry. But there's reasons why your soul determined that you are no longer playing in the game. There are contracts involved. There's a lot of things in play. It's all okay. You're eternal, but you're just going to wake up from the dream of this life because you exist. You at this level, at our levels of consciousness, we can either act, not act, or choose our perspective, but everything is for us. And I really believe Kimberly, Nikki, and you, Max, really touched upon that. Now, this war is a dismantling of systems. It is bringing the media, the governments, how we constructed our 3D reality to examine it and to create new. So there's a lot of light workers that are clearers. And so the cleanup crew is doing the cleaning up. And then there's a lot of other light workers that are the builders. And so I have been getting nonstop, it's time to build communities. It's time to gather the light workers. It's time to put us together. So while there's a deconstruction of the 3D consciousness, there will be a creation of the 5D consciousness. And that is what the team wanted me to bring forth on this unity, because this unity is 5D consciousness. The separation in isolation, in us versus them, in the conflict, is moving into oneness and community and togetherness and understanding that we are all one. So that is what the team wanted me to bring forth.
I love it because one of the messages that I received is that you were saying in the beginning about forgiveness and doing that work of one of the messages that I receive is that this is a moment where we can go into solving conflicts with other people, where right, the opportunity can come along. Well, use it. It's really a good moment to do that. If the reason that if it doesn't happen, but as a possibility that exists right now, and that's very interesting because it goes completely in the direction that you are saying it is, right? It's just,
yeah. And you know, it's interesting, they've been I've been getting a lot of mentoring, I would say, from the non-physical. And so one of the interesting things around my journey where I am right now is that I can feel two emotions at once. I can feel sadness and joy at once. And that feels really weird, to be honest with you, because you typically feel joy or you typically feel sad, but to feel something both at once. And it's really moving more into the quantum state. So this unity is, I felt intense love for humanity and intense sadness at once. And you know, that's part of the phase of the ascension. Like more and more humans will feel multiple emotions at once. And the contrast and how they had me, I think one of the exercises they had me start with is I felt the emotion of desperation, and I didn't want to feel desperate. I didn't want to feel that emotion, desperation. But I know enough now that if that emotion comes up, you know, don't push it away, lean into it, start doing the soul work. And so I felt that desperation and I felt that pain, and that desperation is necessary because it births such a strong desire. And if you didn't feel desperate, you wouldn't birth such a strong desire, because on the other side, you're a being of love, right? And you have access to all that is. So the soul growth is different. We come here for incarnation to expand our soul. And so all these contrasting emotions that we don't like, rejection, loss, lack, desperation, sadness, depression, all of these emotions that we do not prefer, they really are beautiful. So, you know, I've worked on betrayal, I've worked on rejection, I've worked on desperation, and I see how they are doing it systematically. I am so grateful that they are not doing it all at once, Max, because it's really intense. I went through shame. I'm like, oh my God, shame was like, oofa, like, oh my gosh. And, you know, I mean, there are times even with me, like, even though I know I'm really positive and happy but you know, yesterday, I mean, I was just sobbing and I was just like, I just don't want to be here. I just don't want to be in this game anymore. It's so intense. It's so strong. And yet you know, I call it like running up the mountain. So this is my analogy. This is how my ascension feels like. I feel like I am running up a mountain, and it might as well be Mount Everest, right? And there are times where I just want to throw up. Like, it is like I am sick, I am tired, I just want to give up. I'm thinking I'm crazy. Why am I running up this mountain? But the calling to get to the top, to continue, which is never ending, right? It's a never ending Mount Everest. But the calling is so strong. I feel ripped apart inside. I feel so ripped apart because I cannot not stop. Like, I have to continue. And so, you know, I just say to myself, okay, today's the day where I'm throwing up. Okay, today's the day I'm crying. Today's the day that I want to quit. Today's the day that I'm sitting down and I'm not running up that mountain. And then, you know, whether it's a few days later or a few hours later or whatever it is, and then I'm like, okay, I'm back in. I'm all in. I'm gonna get up there. I'm in. I'm committed. I'm here. I am here for the ascension. I'm like, yes, I am here. I hear the call, light workers. Hear the call. It's all okay. It is all okay. This is exciting times. It really is exciting times. And we got this. Guys, we got this. This war, this pain, this suffering, we got this. I am telling you, we got this. There are so many ascendant masters here on earth. There are so many goddesses' returns and God's return. There's so many masters here. We are going to shift the planet, and this is part of our ascension. And you know what? Sometimes I don't like looking at it and I don't like the journey. And then other times I'm like, thank God for this journey. This journey is amazing. So wherever you are in the journey, my loves, my light workers, my sisters and brothers, I love you tremendously. And it's okay. It's okay wherever you are, but we got this. I'm telling you. Doesn't matter if Isabelle Zimmerman is saying it. I'm telling you, we got this, and you know it, and you guys can feel it. So thank you, all of you, for doing the work. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
How can one resist such passion? Well, yeah, you know, I have to say I had some sort of reaction like you of saying, oh, what am I doing here? But when the war started, it was fuck, I don't want this.
Yeah.
It's I think that it was not a surprise at all. It was not. But I think that nevertheless, that was a blow, right? It was a, oh shit, really?
This is what the Soul Collective chose, damn it.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought that we avoided it. And here we are. But yeah, I mean, when I say avoided it, it's that, yeah, we avoid a world war in 2020. No, 2019. Well, there about. But we had COVID, and now we are still in COVID, and war is there too. So it's, yeah, and in some moments, yeah, you say, well, what the fuck?
Yeah.
It's,
and listen, you know, we all get scared. I've been processing fear, and but you know, right now they're really having me go through which is probably going to be an online course, but really going into those contrasting emotions that we don't prefer, because part of the ascension for any planet is really accepting the two contrasting frequencies of the same thread. So joy is a high vibration of sadness, but it's the same color thread. It's just vibrating at a different frequency. But if you continued up sadness as a thread, if you can imagine it as a thread, but if you continued up that thread, you know, that line, you would get to joy, right? So it's part of the same thread. And when I do this soul work, it's the yin and the yang. And if you look at the yin and the yang, like, it's really brilliant, whoever brought that forth. Because if you look at the dark side, there's a white circle. And if you look at the white side, there's a dark circle, a black circle. And it's the doorways to go into both sides, because in reality, it's one. But there's access points. So no matter where you are in your darkness, there will always be a point of light. There will always be love. And wherever you are in your love, there's an access point to go into the darkness, which is just the contrast. And it's just a different frequency. But really, it's all love. Just doesn't feel like it.
Yeah, well, we are really exploring and something new. And I don't know about you, but especially today, I really felt such a change, and coming to a point where I say, well, this now has nothing to do with before anymore. It's completely something new.
Yeah. So Max and I, we talk between these calls, and he was saying he couldn't figure out his own energy from the collective energy or what's out there. And yesterday, I really felt the soul collective. It was so heavy for me. And so when you're trying to discern what's yours, what's not yours, what's in the field, what's going on, right? Because in higher truth, we're all connected anyways. But this discernment to figure out the energy field is a really good practice. And so continue to play in that field. Don't worry if you can't figure it out. Don't worry if you feel confused. Don't worry if you feel overwhelmed. Because I know Max, you were struggling because you felt so much energy and you felt so much emotion in that field.
Yes, yeah, but coming through, right, with what the collective is going through. So it comes, well, it expresses itself. I was feeling it. Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes I say it knocks you on your ass. It literally knocks you on your ass. You can't do anything. You are like shut down for the day.
Weeks.
It's normal. Just so you know, it is so normal. As light workers, we really anchor the light within our bodies and outside our bodies into Gaia. We filter and clear for those who cannot clear. We are doing a lot. So when you feel overwhelmed and lost and you know, all of it, because it's intense, it's intense. It's hard to describe the intensity, but it's a holy shit. That's what I would say. It's a holy shit, and it knocks you on your ass. So if you're feeling it and you're filtering for the soul collective, just know it's okay. You're normal. You're not crazy. It's all okay.
Yeah, and right, we are in a position, like you said, you channeled 5 hours about the war and all of that. I could do the same and receive help and guidance and all of that in understanding what is happening and how we are involved. That's the thing about the collective, right? We are here, our duality, we are having our experiences, but at the same moment, the collective is also have experiences, and we are integrating into it. So we are experiencing through that what is not here now. So it was that realization, that feeling the collective, really, I think for the first time, really feeling it and experiencing it, and realizing, well, that you have been saying, they say you're doing the work there. You are not physically there, but there is a work that you are doing with that, and you are feeling it. That is the way it is, and now, yeah, there is the physical, the human that has to, right, integrate it, to allow it to, because the human is not understanding that's what you were talking about before with the going from third to fifth, is that integration of the fifth. But the fifth dimension has absolutely no idea of the third, and the third has no idea of the fifth. So that thing of melting that together, it's just, I mean, it's like fire and water meeting, right? They don't get together that way. There is something happening, but oh, right. So suddenly you have to work together. Those two aspects have to work together in the understanding of each other. It's literally two different beings. It's not different, but two beings that meet together, and they know nothing about each other, but they have to know each other because they are each other, right?
Yes, and so this this transition period, this shift. So believe it or not, we are going as gentle as we can through this transition. This planetary shift, and there are many bridges. A lot of us are lighthouses. A lot of us.
Sorry, I click at gentle. It was gentle.
I know,
Sorry.
right? This is like as gentle as it is, and it's like, oh my God, it's a holy shit, right? So it's so funny, but yeah, I mean, they tell me all the time, they're like, we're going as slow as we can, as gentle as you can, but you have to understand it's still fast because we're ascending in our human bodies. Okay, a lot of planetary shifts, they don't ascend in their physical bodies, guys. We chose to ascend in our physical bodies, meaning we don't die and then come back ascended. We are ascending in our bodies, and the ones who do cross over, it's because they have a different soul contract and path. And you know, again, you can't know someone's journey. So don't even judge it. Don't, like, just try to practice not judging it. Everything is perfect and everything's unfolding perfectly, and it may not feel that way, and I get it, but welcome to the design of source. So good luck resisting it, guys. Good luck.
You see, it's funny because I was telling them, I was fuck you. I mean,
Yeah.
I thought that with Biden's election, we were going to slow that a little bit down, and that we were having some sort of slowdown. And then they said, yeah, that's a slowdown. That's all you get. But you are in an accelerated time. So the slowdown is even not noticeable. It's just so fast that it's the way it is.
It is. And then it's not slowing down. The snooze alarm is not stopping.
Yeah.
We're in a planetary shift. It does not matter who knows or who does not know. Everyone's soul knows. Everyone's inner being is fully aware of what is going on. There is a massive amount of energy on Earth right now. They have been counseling me that this is radical changes. Changes are going to happen very fast in the next 2 years. the changes that would typically take 50 years are going to happen within 2 years. There's a ton of energy for the cleaners and ton of energy for the creators. If you can't sleep, it's normal. If you're having vivid dreams, it's normal. There's just a lot of healing going on. And, you know, yeah, we are in the accelerated rate of the ascension. And I'm telling you guys, I think it's even going to get faster. I think it's going to get even faster because every day I hear from them, you know, hold on to your hat, Isabelle, hold on to your hat. Like, I'm about to go down the roller coaster ride. And I'm like, okay. So I'm trying to, as Isabelle, as your sister, I try to really tune into my vibration, really ask where I am, what am I feeling? If I'm triggered, I do the soul work pretty quick. I allow any emotion to come through to me. I really have tried allowing emotions to be felt as is without judgment. And I go within. Yeah. Isabelle Zimmerman goes within a lot. Yes. Yes. I talk to my celestial team a lot. Why? Well, because I love them. They're just as important to me as Max is. They're my friends. And I'm so grateful that I can talk to my friends on the other side. And, you know, they mentor me, but they don't spoil the surprise, guys. Just want to let you know. Like, I might get some clues, but you know, they're not spoiling the surprise for Isabelle Zimmerman. And I can feel their glee at times. I'm like, oh my God, they're going to do something. They're up to something, those guys on the other side. And I stay in a lot of gratitude. I really cultivate gratitude, the now moment. And that's how I personally do it. And hopefully that will help you navigate this exhilarating storm of a hurricane.
Yeah, well, right. Not to forget, all right, we are in the middle of so many things. Pandemic, fall of empires, war, ascension.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that's where you realize that we are not as little or as insignificant as we, because we are doing all of this at once. It's just huge. So good for us. I mean,
I know, I'm telling you, like, you know, if you can be objective and really, like, you know, just what Max said, if you can be objective around it, you can see how powerful we are. Yeah. You can see it. And what I love, when I had to process shame, so every time I have to do my soul work, the team on the other side is crickets. Like, they're like, I can really feel like I'm taking my test and the teacher is just like sitting there, just watching me do my work. And then after, when I put my pencil down, my energetic pencil, they're like, shoo. They're like, write it. They're like, oh, we can talk to her. She finished her test. So when I went into shame, one of the sweet understandings was shame is not just an earthly thing. It's really galactic. And I'm like, I'm so grateful now for the emotion of shame, because it ties me to my galactic brothers and sisters, that we have a commonality of an emotion that we share. of shame. And I see the beauty of that. And so once I got that understanding around shame, and once I got that understanding around war, like other worlds have warred against each other, against other planets. Star Wars, which I love that series, but those are wars, right? And how cool is that, that connects us to our galactic family? Because they understand it. They went through it. It was part of their evolutionary growth. And so I see the connectedness beyond Earthlings. And how cool is that?
Yes, so fantastic. Thank you so much, Isabelle. This is great. And so I don't know if you heard this too in the recording, but next time it's gonna be you.
Okay, yay. I can't wait.
Yes. So again, thank you so much for joining in, and thanks for to everyone that has been with us. This is gonna be put together and then on YouTube, and so we will see you in the next now. And until then, well, love you.